Hi and welcome along to AFTV Transfer Daily, the show that keeps you up to date with players that have been linked with a January transfer move to Arsenal. First of all, let me apologise for yesterday. The show went up really late. I was on a film set actually yesterday. We're filming this documentary for ITV and it was like a whole day of filming. And I filmed Transfer Daily really early. And then after that, I just could not get it transferred and get it uploaded from the location I was at. It was an absolute nightmare yesterday. We did eventually get it up. It was quite late, but thank you very much for watching it. The views on it was fantastic, and I really appreciate you guys. You're really behind this show. At the office today, again, loads of recording to be done, and looking forward to the game against Crystal Palace. Tomorrow, vital game for Arsenal, big game for Arsenal, big test. Every game's a test right now for Mikel Arteta. And Mikel Arteta was speaking yesterday in his press conference, and inevitably he was asked about transfers. And he had some very interesting things to say. One of the main things he said was, if we can't, and these are his quotes, if we can't find something to help us go through the season in a more balanced way in certain areas, we'll look at options. Or should I say, I quoted that wrong. If we can find something to help us go through the season in a more balanced way in certain areas, we'll look at options. I'm not expecting big things. So that's what he's saying. So he's obviously playing down, any hope of any big transfers. And I don't think, despite the fact that we've been linked to practically every player going right now, the Upamecano's and people like that, I don't think there's a lot of Arsenal fans out there who do think Arsenal would do something really big unless, and this is what happens a lot, something big comes up that you just can't resist. It's just too good to pass up. But it does look like Arsenal are going to do business, but they're looking at certain areas. And one of the areas, when he's talking about balance, one of the areas that is definitely concerning Arsenal at the moment is the right back position. Hector Bellerin, Arteta was asked about it yesterday. Is Bellerin going to be fit enough? He's been in training this week. He's going to be fit enough for the game against Crystal Palace. He's not. He's not going to be in the squad. He won't be travelling to Crystal Palace. And kind of spoke about this earlier this week. It's a bit of concern for Arsenal because at the moment it's only Ainsley Maitland-Niles who can play in that position. Mustafi, who could cover right back, is going to be, looks like he's going to be leaving in January. And Callum Chambers, another person who was covering in that area, is out for the rest of the season. So right back is a problem. Now, Arsenal looking at a couple of right backs. Now, I spoke about this kid yesterday. It's still bubbling around again today. The Brazilian kid goes by the name of Yan Couto. He's a right back, plays for a team called Coritiba in Brazil. He's only 17, so a very young player. Played for the Brazilian under-17 World Cup winning team, and is said to be a real hot prospect coming out of Brazil. Now, as I said yesterday, the club Coritiba seemed to be willing to let him go and would take around about £4 million for him, which is not a huge amount of sum, which is not a sum that Arsenal would not be able to pay him or put him into big problems this January transfer window. He is, however, very young. Would he be a player that will be able to come and step into the first team? Although we have seen with Martinelli, he's come through and he's hit the ground running immediately, but that's not going to happen with every single player. So whether he'll be the sort of player that could come in as a backup right back, who knows, but that's one. Then, of course, there's Max Aarons. Now, Max Aarons, of course, who plays for Norwich. There's been lots of rumours flying around about him this week. He's only 19, by the way. Again, he's another kid, only 19. But has been doing great things. Was excellent in the Championship last season for Norwich. Played lots and lots of games, so got lots of experience of playing in that really tough division. And, of course, has started nearly every game, apart from the games he's been injured, for Norwich this season in the Premier League. So highly experienced. Norwich would want quite a decent fee for him, though. He is a hot prospect. And also you've got to add to that the fact that Norwich do not want to sell him right now. They're in a relegation battle, and they're probably looking at it and saying, listen, we sell one of our best players now, that could, even cement the fact that we go down. If we keep these best players in place, at least we've got a chance of staying up, and the rewards for staying in the Premier League are huge. So I still think it's highly unlikely that Arsenal will sell that Norwich will sell Max Aarons, but he's still being talked about as maybe that player who could come in as a backup right back. I see that more as a possibility for the summer. I think it'd be very difficult to get done this January, but right back is a problem for Arsenal. Arsenal also seem to be looking at a midfielder. Now, Mikel Arteta spoke yesterday about Granit Xhaka, spoke about how he has had words with Xhaka and has persuaded Xhaka to stay at Arsenal, has told him he's a very important player. And he has looked important in the past few games. Who would have thought that after what happened with Granit Xhaka? But in the last few games, he has looked like a very, very important player. Him and Torreira really bonding a good partnership there in the middle. However, it does look like Arteta is also interested in another midfielder. He wants a sort of box-to-box midfielder, and he's also looking at what if something happens to Xhaka? Then we are a little bit short in that area. Or you've got Willock, Guendouzi's, but are they these sort of guys that could really cover him properly? And again, another player that I spoke about yesterday, I'll talk about him again because he's been heavily, heavily linked, and that's the Lille midfielder, defensive midfielder, Boubakary Soumaré. He can play as a defensive midfielder. He can play as a box-to-box midfielder. He's energetic. He's young. He's only 20. As I previously said, Wolves attempted to buy him. They put in a bid of over £30 million, which was rejected by Lille. Lille said to favour a similar move to like what we did to get Saliba, whichever way you want to pronounce it, from Saint Etienne, which is that deal where you buy the player, but you then send him back to the club on loan. It seems like Lille will be willing to do that, but Arsenal want this player now. They don't want to pay this money for him and then send him back on loan, only for him to get him next season. I think Arsenal, if they are going to get this type of player, they're looking at this type of player right now. And it definitely looks like, and when you listen to the words of Arteta about the right balance, those are the areas to me that look to be the problems. Right back, and of course, midfield, and of course we know defence. We don't even have to mention that. I think everybody knows that we could do with another centre back. But who's that going to be? Cavani. Remember, Cavani was being linked with Arsenal a couple of days ago. He was being linked with everybody. Probably his agent putting it out there. Well, PSG have come out and said that they're not going to be selling Cavani in January, and that Cavani will be staying put. That is what they are saying. And Eddie Nketiah, where is he going to end up? Now, I've said previously, Bristol City want him. Sheffield Wednesday want him. Nottingham Forest want him. 3 Championship teams really desperate to get him. However, there's a couple of Premier League teams now that have now come in and are thought to want him. One of those is Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa really, really struggling in the striker department. They lost their striker to injury. He's going to be out for the rest of the season, and they are desperate for a striker that's going to be able to come in and score a lot of goals. And if they can do it with a loan move, that would be perfect for them. So they're talking about Eddie Nketiah. I think that'd be a great move if he went to Aston Villa, especially for Arsenal. You saw when Tammy Abrahams went to Villa, that has really, really helped him. Tammy Abrahams from Chelsea went to Villa. So Eddie Nketiah, Villa said to be very interested in him. And also Norwich. Norwich are said to be very interested in him as well. Again, another team fighting for Premier League survival. And you know what? One of those 2 clubs, I'm not sure if he would get the full game time there, but one of those 2 clubs, I think if he went to one of those 2 Premier League clubs and was in a relegation battle and was in a real fight, and, that might help him a lot. That really might help his development. But I'm sure that Arsenal are sort of looking at it and they really are hot on this guy getting a lot of game time. That is the only reason they pulled him back from Leeds. And then there's another one of the Arsenal youngsters who's being linked heavily with a move away, and that is John Jules, Tyrese John Jules, who's been doing brilliant things this season in the under-23s, really has been prolific scoring goals. Still only 18, again, another guy learning his trade. He was actually in the squad for, in the first team squad for Monday's game against Leeds. Didn't actually get onto the pitch, but he's wanted apparently by Lincoln City on loan. They're looking for a striker as well, and that is something that could benefit him. So all hotting up in the January transfer window. It's going to be very interesting to see what business Arsenal do. Looking forward to the game tomorrow, Crystal Palace. That's a huge game for Arsenal, and it'd be a real morale booster. It'd be brilliant for Arteta if he could go there and get a win. So really looking forward to that game. But thanks for watching the show, and we'll be back tomorrow.